Sahanah bhavatu Sahanau bhunaktu Sahaviryam karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Welcome to all of you. Happy to see all of you here in this Satsang. The first question is creation, sustenance of ego. From birth, how does a strong and sometimes arrogant ego develop? How to face it? Question about ego. How is it born? Birth. How does it sustain and become stronger and stronger? And sometimes arrogant. And how to face it? How to lighten it? So, first question about the ego. So first let us start with what Vedanta means by the word ego. In our common parlance, we understand ego as pride, arrogance. But Vedanta explains ego as the sense of individuality, the notion of I or the sense of individuality. Each one of us has identification, I am so and so. That I am a Swami, I am a Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Purusha, Stree, father, mother, happy, unhappy. All of these are expressions of ego or sense of individuality with which we are born. This ego is a product of identification with my body, with my mind. So when we are born, we are also born with this costume of the body, sense organs, mind. This costume, also called upadhi, personality, is given to each one of us. We are by nature Atma. Atma means that is all pervasive, that is self of all. Thus, even the meaning of Atma means that which is all pervasive, which is the self of all, which sustains everything. The Atma you and I are, meaning that by nature we are limitless, self of all, non-dual. Now that Atma, when it has come to the stage of the universe to function, just as an actor, when he or she comes to the stage, always comes with a costume. Actor cannot come as he or she is, comes with a costume. So Atma is the primary actor and comes with a costume of this body, sense organs, mind, so that Atma can play a variety of roles and interact with the world, perform its functions, live the life. Now, in order to live the life, perform functions, the Atma created all these costumes. Rupam rupam pratirupo bhahuva. All the various rupas, forms, names, costumes are created. Prati rupo bahuva purasa pakshi bhutva. Upanishad says, Puraha, in the beginning, pakshi bhutva, this Atma becoming like a bird, Purah Puramavishada, he entered all these nests, all these upadhis, costumes that he had created. So this is the story of how ego is got created. The Upanishad tells us the story that Ishvara or Paramatma created these names and forms. Tat srishtva tadevanupravishat. And then enter, meaning assume these costumes. Now, putting on a costume is fine. But what happened to this Atma is that, having put on the costume, he identified with the costume. Thus, an actor who is an extremely wealthy person puts on the costume of a beggar, which is fine, which is how he can play his role on the stage. But putting on the costume and playing the role is one thing, and becoming the costume is a different thing. Becoming an actor, saying that I'm a beggar. So this actor thinking that I'm a beggar is called ego. So Atma thinking that I'm so and so. The so and so belongs to the costume. The man, woman, Brahmana, Kshatriya, happy, unhappy, all of these are the attributes of the costume. And having assumed this costume, Atma as though forgets his own identity, like an actor forgetting the identity and becoming the costume. So Atma or Paramatma has become this costume, has become a human being, has become an animal, has become a plant or tree or insect because of identification with the costume. An actor as though becoming a beggar is not become as though become. So this is called ego. When the self, Atma, which is limitless, on account of identification with this upadhi, body, mind, sense complex, now entertains the notion that I am so and so. So this is the birth of the ego. It's born of what? Born of identification. Why identification? Because Atma as though does not know his true nature. Ignorance is the cause of this ego. Ignorance has two aspects. One is called avaranam, other is called vikshepa. Avaranam means not knowing one's true nature. Vikshepa, taking oneself to be contrary to what one is. Like the object in front of me, not knowing that it is a rope, and taking it to be a snake. So not knowing that I am limitless and taking myself to be limited. Thus Atma, the limitless, taking himself to a limited being, so ego. And we are all born with this notion. This is called ego. There are masks outside. Somebody can bring masks here. They will bring. I'm the only one who has the permission to take out the mask. No, our mind is made up of three dispositions: sattva, rajas and tamas. Meaning there is no rule that ego is necessarily a bad thing. Ego means pride or arrogance is not necessarily so. Ego can be sattvic, ego can be rajasic, ego can be tamasic. So usually whenever we refer to ego and think ego means pride, arrogance, this is the attribute of rajas, which is predominantly what human being is. Rajas is a predominant nature, and therefore, more often than not, the individual comes across as a proud, arrogant person. It's not a rule that ego has to be proud or arrogant. Ego can be sattvic also, can be humble, can be kind. Person can be humble, kind, helpful, giving. All of us are at one point of time. So understand, ego does not mean pride or arrogance. Ego with the predominance of rajas displays pride, arrogance. These are the attributes of rajas. The costume that keeps on changing. The nature of costume keeps on changing. Sometimes the costume is sattvic, sometimes costume is rajasic, sometimes costume is tamasic. Why, Swami? Because of karma. So past karma may manifest as sattva or rajas or tamas. And sattva means calmness, tranquility, kindness, affection, compassion. Rajas means greed, aggressiveness, assertion, self-assertion, the tendency to dominate, pride. These are the attributes of rajas, not of ego, of rajas, understand? That is why ego can be, this can be changed. This costume can be changed, and that is our job. Of course, there can be predominant tamas also, in which case there can be violence, negative qualities. So, Devi Sampat, Asuri Sampat, Rakshasi Sampat. Asuras are those who are bhoga nishta, meaning those who are devoted to bhoga or pleasure. Rakshasas are those who are the nature of distraction. Thus we find people of all this kind, Now this question is already done, so we need not look at it. Now we take it off, because everybody reads that question again and again and again. Looks like something on the screen, so we must see it. What I am saying is not important, what's written there is important. But I am talking about that only. So what is the creation cause of ego? Ignorance, which results into identification, which results into sense of individuality, is called ego. Ego can be sattvic also, rajasic also, tamasic also, depending upon the disposition of our mind. So sometimes strong and arrogant ego, that is when the rajoguna is predominant, which is usually what it is in human beings. How to face it? Recognizing that pride, arrogance are also not of essential nature. Yes, when we are overcome by impulses, then we act as a pride, arrogant person. We don't have to judge ourselves as proud, arrogant. Don't have to judge ourselves. That's it. That is only a momentary situation. The karma makes the mind rajasic, therefore the pride, arrogance, etc. become evident, therefore identifying with that, I become proud and arrogant. Regardless of what other people tell us, let us remember that we should not judge ourselves as a proud or arrogant person. We are basically good persons. Each one of us is basically a kind, good, loving person. That's our nature. The arrogance, pride are incidental, not essential. Essential and incidental. Essentially, each one of us is a kind, loving, good person. Incidentally, we become arrogant, proud. And that's because of the Rajoguna. So how to face it? First of all, we should not judge ourselves as proud, arrogant. Hopefully, should not judge other person also as proud and arrogant, if we can. As best as possible, we should remember that every human being essentially is a good, kind, loving person. Give them the freedom. Then no restraints are there in us. A lot of restrictions are there, pressures are there. That being the case, we become like that, we behave like that. There are compulsions, pressures of desire, pressures of, the world, pressures of performance, pressures of looking like this, being so and so, pressure to fulfill the demands of the world, that how I should be, etc. So these are the kind of things that make me uncomfortable. And therefore I react. So this pride, arrogance, reactions are not our nature. Nor are the nature of the other person who appears proud and arrogant. They are also incidental. Which means that it can be removed. So how should we face it? Number one, recognizing that this is only incidental, not natural. Secondly, this pride, arrogance, all of these, they first of all torture me before they torture anybody else. These things are like fire. And fire burns its own source first before it burns anything else. So anger, greed, etc. are all expressions of Rajoguna. And we become often controlled by them, become swayed by them. The impulse becomes very strong and we become swayed by them, controlled by them, dominated by our impulses. And so how to face it? When the mind becomes calm, and then we should review that episode which made me proud, arrogant, angry, asserting. Ask myself, what was the reason? What did I want? What kind of lack or want or discomfort I am feeling within myself which makes me like this? A happy person cannot be proud or arrogant. Only an unhappy person having some discomfort within, pain within. Only that person can be proud or arrogant because we don't like ourselves proud. I become proud, arrogant, angry is a different thing when some impulse takes over me. But basically I do not like an angry eye. I do not like a proud eye. When you Swami, may I take your picture? Then I always pose myself as a smiling, pleasant person. Because that's how I like myself to be. Inside I may be anything, but outside, I don't pose as an angry, proud, arrogant person. I don't want to, So then why do I become? I don't know. Something makes me become. I would like to appear only as a nice, congenial, smiling, loving person. That's what I would like myself to appear before the world. Something takes over me and makes me appear as this proud. You take the Vidya, which means that we should understand the mechanism of how this anger, pride, see, all these are all many anger, pride, aggressiveness, greed arises from Rajoguna, from a sense of lack, want, pain, deprivation, rejection, dissatisfaction. This is all going on inside, and that comes out this way. And so to face it is, number one, do not identify, don't judge yourself by that. Number two, understand what made me so, what was within me that made me appear like that, and how to deal with it. And Lord Krishna teaches, this is exactly what Bhagavad Gita teaches. How to transform a Rajasic ego into a Sattvic ego. Ego is not all bad. A bhakta also has an ego. A karma yogi also has an ego. Ego means sense of individuality. But a bhakta is a desirable ego, sattvic ego, because that when I become sattvic, that is the ground for knowing myself as Ananda. So question is, why is it called Anandamaya Kosha? I don't know what is this question of Anandamaya Kosha. I don't know. But anyway, ego is not called Anandamaya Kosha. That will come to. But our constant endeavor should be to transform the Rajasic ego to Sattvic ego by right attitudes and values. So we are taught by Lord Krishna an attitude of becoming a contributor, becoming helpful, reaching out to others, being sympathetic to others, being accommodating to others. So these values and attitudes that we are taught, more we bring them into our life, more the rajas will be transformed to sattva. And by practicing this with diligence, because the value of these values will be recognized. That I am not obliging somebody by being a kind person. Not obliging somebody by accommodating them. I am obliging myself. Thus, when we understand the value of these values and diligently practice them, the mind will be progressively transformed and all this pride, arrogance will slowly subside. And our true nature will come. This fellow actually deprives me the benefit of my true nature. I would be so happy with myself, I would have been kind, loving person. I would enjoy myself. I cannot enjoy a proud, arrogant self. And therefore, the way to deal with this thing is it's not a one-shot deal. It needs a change of attitudes and a value. That pride and arrogance are not my strength, they are my weaknesses. Angry person may appear to be a strong person, is a weak person. In Sanskrit, there is kshama, virasya bhushanam. Kshama is an ornament of a brave, not of a weak person. Kshama means forgiveness, accommodation. So this is how more we understand our mind, we will know why the mind behaves the way it does. And by pratipaksha bhavana, by right values and attitudes, slowly, that is the sadhana. The primary sadhana of spiritual practice is to transform our mind from tamas to rajas, rajas to sattva. And that's what Bhagavad Gita teaches. So how to lighten it? By, as I said, number one, recognizing that it is not something that I should promote, not something that I should justify. When I just start justifying my anger, justifying my pride, justifying my arrogance, it will never go. So within my own mind, recognizing these things are hurting me. Like fire, it first burns its source and then will burn others. So recognizing that this pride, arrogance, all hurts me. I want to become free from them. By the opposite value. Arrogance comes when I don't respect others. I think I am something, others are nothing. So this is called manitvam. And this normally that's called ahankara, is called that way. But a value of being humble, a value of being kind, a value of being generous. Knowing that that is what will make me happy. The angry eye is not a happy eye, proud eye is not a happy eye, arrogant eye is not a happy, unhappy eye. Only a kind person is a happy person. A giving, forgiving person is a happy person. So with that value, understanding and attitude, we can progressively lighten it. Why is it called Anandamaya Kosha? Who told you that ego is called Anandamaya Kosha? I don't know. Ego is not called Anandamaya Kosha. When ego also becomes unmanifest, ego also, there is a laya or the merger of ego. Ego merges as a deep sleep state. In deep sleep state, the ego is not destroyed, not disappeared, it has merged into its cause called ignorance. Therefore, the deep sleep state is called avyakta or unmanifest, where ego is no more manifest or active. The ego being the big burden, big load, like the crown of thorn is this ego, which I am carrying on my head during waking dream states. In deep sleep state, the fellow goes to sleep. Who goes to sleep? Ego. Who is awake? Ego. Who is dreaming? Ego. Who is sleeping? Ego. Thank God the fellow goes to sleep. We're all relieved. Ego goes to sleep, all my burden and all these lack and want, all of these also disappear at that time. Therefore, I become free from all the burden. So deep sleep state is a state where ego merges into its cause called ignorance. Then all the notions and all the sense of limitedness, lack of want which ego had, they all also merge. Therefore, deep sleep state is a state free from all lack, want, limitedness. Meaning that it is a state which is free from all dukkha. All dukkha, sorrow, all comes to an end. All desires also merge, all the grief also merges, freedom from grief, freedom from all sorrow. That is the state of deep sleep. And when the sorrow is not there, the ananda becomes manifest with my true nature. That is called anandamaya kosha. But it's ananda, unfortunately, we are not aware at that time, so we are not aware that I am ananda at that time. But in anandamaya kosha, in unmanifest, ego is not anandamaya kosha. When ego merges, that is called anandamaya kosha. Ego means sense of individuality merges. Therefore, I don't feel individual at all. I don't feel isolated. I don't feel limited. I become free from all isolation, limitation. It's called ananda. Therefore, the state of deep sleep is also called anandamaya kosha. Between you and me, I would not call it anandamaya kosha. Because that is completely covered by tamas. Anandamaya kosha is that state where there is merger of ego not in tamas but in sattva. In deep sleep state, the ego is merged into tamas. Therefore also is not there. But really speaking, anandamaya kosha is when ego merges into sattva. Then only it is closer to Atma. So in anandamaya kosha, that yogi or the aspirant is absorbed, merged into ananda. It's called samadhi. Savikalpa samadhi. The only thing is that at that time he doesn't have the knowledge that I am ananda, but he is experiencing ananda. Anandamaya kosha means experience of ananda. This deep sleep state is tentatively called anandamaya kosha because there is no ego there, but I would not call it anandamaya kosha. Because anandamaya kosha is that which is kosha, the sheath which deprives me of the nature of self, and that is closest. Annamaya, pranamaya, manomaya, vijnana. Anandamaya is closest to Atma, to Ananda. Therefore, this koshada progressively increase of sattva. So Anandamaya kosha is where sattva is predominant. Therefore, there is no dukkha at that time. It is a merger into Ananda. So that's called Anandamaya kosha. Where ego is merged into sattva. It's very little distance between ananda, I am ananda, experience of ananda I remain. The knowledge is I am ananda. So that's the difference. Any questions, by the way, when I'm now, before I go to the next question? If anybody needs any clarification, we have a cordless microphone. No question? Okay. Next one. Now you can project in second question. The philosophies of Mimamsakas, Naiyayikas, Vaisheshikas, etc. Now you can see that. The philosophies of Mimamsakas, Naiyayikas, Vaisheshikas, etc. seem to show us the logic and the building blocks of the universe, etc. Can we term them as Dvaitas or scientists? If their capacity stops at pointing out the obvious or known, why are the arguments given so much importance in Vedanta classes? Acharyas will take up their positions of Mimamsakas, Vaisheshikas, Naiyayikas. That's because the Mimamsaka, Vaisheshika, Naiyayika is there within me. And very often our own mind comes up with these questions or doubts when we think. So we feel that Bhashyakara is addressing unnecessary points, but if we think, then these questions are likely to arise in our own mind. But other than the Vedantin, Advaitin, there are 6 schools of philosophy: Nyaya, Vaisheshika, Sankhya, Yoga, Purva Mimamsa, meaning the Karma Kandis. All these people give reality to the world. For them, world is real. This is where the difference is. First assumption is what we experience is real. Then they try to analyze. So all the analysis that the Vaisheshikas give, that atomists, they say that the 5 atoms are the primary material cause of the universe from which the universe is made. The Sankhya say that the 3 gunas, sattva, rajas, tamas, are the constituents which creation is made. So these 2 models are given to us based on the assumption that the universe is tangible, real. See, those days they did not have, or Puja Swami used to say, those days they did not have the benefit of the physics, which has proven that the world is mithya or it is relative. So this concept mithya was not understood by them, even though Vedanta was there. And Brahma Satyam Jagan Mithya, Jagat is Mithya was there. Although these people all came before Vedanta, by the way, all these philosophies existed, and Vedanta took from them all the essential parts, and now we have what we have, the Advaita Vedanta. Advaita means non-duality. So what the Advaita Vedantin teaches us? Let us say Bhashyakara. Is that what is Sadeva Somi Edamagrasit Ekamevadvi Upanishad says. Hey Somi, oh good looking one, Idam, this Nam Rupatmakam Jagat, this universe consisting of names and forms, Agre before its creation, Sat Asit was nothing but Sat, one without a second. This universe before its creation was Sat. So why is the description like this? Like saying that this universe of parts, this is called universe of parts. Imagine 100 variety of parts and pans and different shapes and different names, different uses. This universe of pots and pans was clay before its creation. What kind of clay? One without a second. I guess that statement you can understand, isn't it? This was all made from a lump of clay, so before creation, all these pots and pans, nothing but clay. In clay there is no 1, 2, 3, 4. In pots, pans 1, 2, 3, 4 are there. In clay, all it is 1. Nothing other than clay is called without second. So thus the Upanishad says that this universe of names and forms, like our pots and pans, was Sat, one without a second. What is the reason why all these vessels, or the pots and pans are described in this way. Why should you worry about what it was before creation? Why does Upanishad talk about how the universe was before creation? Like saying that what is pots and pans were before, they were clay before the creation. Please tell me, what is the relationship between clay and pots? What's the relationship between these pots and clay? What's the relationship? Simple. Clay is the cause, isn't it? The material from which pots are made. Pots are the effect, product. Clay is the cause. What kind of cause? Material cause. Important. Clay is the material cause, material or stuff from which the pot is made. Meaning that this pot was clay before its creation. So what is it now? After creation we call it pot, but what is the substance in this entity? Is it gold or what is it? It is clay. So really speaking, teacher could have said, hey Shvetiketu, this is clay, this pot. Didn't say that. What did he say? This pot before its creation was clay. Why is it so? Why did he say this way? Because hey Shvetiketu, oh good looking one, oh pleasing one. What do you think is pot was clay before its creation, is clay now also. It is to help us understand what is the reality of this object called pot that it is said that this pot was clay before its creation. Then now also it is clay, but I think it is pot, therefore my attention is drawn. Hey, what do you think pot? Look at it closely. Is outside, inside, above, below, everywhere it is clay, is it not so? Therefore, really speaking, this pot is nothing but clay. Even now. But since I think that it is pot, therefore the teacher takes me before the state before the creation and says, this pot was clay before creation. Imagine. Yeah, clay. Now look at the pot. Now take away the clay. What is created here? There was clay, lump of clay before the creation of pot. So clay is not created, isn't it? Clay existed. Pot is created, right? In this pot now, this is clay, so this clay is not created. So what is created? When you say that pot is created, the clay is not created, then what is created? The form called pot, the name called pot, is it not so? So what would you say? Clay plus name and form is pot, right? Clay to which you add name and form, that becomes pot. Is that right? Or any question about that? Good, you very easily accept it, so it is easier for me. So clay plus name and form, so clay is A, let us say, name and form is B, pot is C. A plus B is equal to C, right? So C minus B should be equal to C minus A should be equal to B. So clay plus name and form is pot. So pot minus clay should be in name and form. Clay is A. Name and form is B is equal to C, that is pot, isn't it so? So C minus A should leave B, is it not so? A plus B is equal to C, C minus A is equal to B, is it not? So pot minus clay should be name and form, is it not so? You follow what I am saying? Clay plus name and form is the spot. So take away the clay from this, what should remain? Name and form. Will it remain? If you take away the clay, will it remain? No? Then how did you say clay plus name and form is spot? If that equation is true, then name and form should remain when you remove the clay. Is it not so? Does it remain? No? Then is this equation right? Clay plus name and form is a pot. Is that equation right? No? Then what should it be? As though. Very good. What else? Form, yeah. But name and form, yeah. Anyway, by saying this equation already I have misguided you. You can add apples and apples, not apple and oranges. They used to tell us, Therefore, clay plus name and form, they can be added if they enjoy the same degree of reality. It is not clay plus name and form, it is clay upon which name and form is superimposed. Understand this. You follow what I am saying? The difference? Therefore, what is superimposed has no existence other than it's a notion. So pot is a notion. Vacharambanam, vikara namadhyam, mritika ityeva satyam, a statement from Chandogya Upanishad that what you call pot is only a word. This object pot has no reality more than word pot. Mritika, only clay alone is real. So this is how Vedanta explains that all names and forms are superimposing. That's called mithya. Mithya means superimposition. What is meant is that the name and form part do not enjoy independent reality. It is there because of clay. If clay is not there, name and form is not there. So what does not enjoy independent reality, what enjoys dependent, is called mithya. In appearance, if clay appears as pot, clay has not become pot, clay appears as pot. So also Brahman appears as universe. Therefore, there is no reality in the universe. That's how Vedanta begins. Therefore, Vedanta analysis is quite different. Scientists also begin with taking the world as real. So scientists like the Mimamsakas very well, Sankhyas, they like them well because the atoms and then, so they explain the process of creation, stuff like that, which find some kind of sympathy with the scientists. Vedanta says, what creation you're talking about? What creation? It's superimposition. Meaning that even when there are parts, what is really clay alone? There is nothing other than clay. In spite of the apparent manyness of the parts, what is there is clay. So also in spite of apparent manyness of names and forms, what is you and I is nothing but Brahman, nothing but Asti Bhadi Priyam, nothing but Satchidananda. Therefore, they are not Dvaitin, means those who give reality to the creation. All the other schools of thought are based on giving reality to the universe. And then they analyze it, 5 elements there, 3 gunas are there, different, which all, well, then it is all fine. What they explain is good, provided we accept that this is real. Vedanta questions that itself and says, what do you call real? Which is abhaditam, which cannot be negated. The pot can be negated when it breaks, or it can be negated. When you focus attention on clay, in your mind the pot will not remain anymore. Therefore, once logic all comes when you take world to be real, then Naiyayikas provide logic, Vaisheshikas provide the logic. It provides logic and explains their whole point of view, which is very useful to us because it helps us understand, explain the world. Even though the world is mithya, we have to deal with it anyway, and therefore we have been born thinking that the world is real. Otherwise there was no problem in the world, life. When you go to watch a movie, no problem with movie. Because you know it's a show, it's an appearance. Suppose we recognize that this is all appearance in a great movie. A movie is something that you enjoy without identification. So whatever happens is all show of the sattva, rajas, tamas. That's all the prakriti show is there. That's how a wise person looks at it. Guna vartante tyeva yo tisthati nengate. The 14th chapter of Gita says, for a wise person, Guna idyona vichalyate, guna vartante. All this is the show of the three gunas, sattva, rajas, tamas. And therefore, it's a show, doesn't give reality. Therefore, nothing upsets him, nothing disturbs him, nothing shakes him from his abidance in knowledge. We can all become that. That's the purpose. Therefore, the understanding of mithyatma is very important. As long as something that is satyam or real will always be a problem to us because it stands apart from us. If Jagat is real, then I am one. The world is different. That is called duality. That is called exclusion. Then Jagat does not include me, I do not include Jagat, mutual exclusion, mutual isolation and conflict and fear. Therefore, all our transactions they have fear in the root. Dvityadvai bhayam bhavati Upanishad says, when there is duality, when there is division. Not duality and division. You are not I. This is I. You are outside that. You say, you are not I. So then, I have confined myself to this boundary and then you are outside the boundary. Then there is always fear. What will happen if you attack me, you do something to me? So when division is there, the fear is built in. So all our life is based on fear, insecurity. The Bhagavan or Ishvara or Atma identified, became the ego, became insecure. And therefore now he's trying to get security. By becoming big, by becoming famous, by becoming powerful, etc., etc. Trying to become free from fear. Fear only changes form, doesn't go away. As long as duality is there and individuality is there, fear cannot go. Therefore, Vedanta teaches the reality of the universe. Other than Advaita Vedantin, even the other schools of the Vaishnava, all of them take world as mithya. Whether Vedanta is Advaitin or Vishishta Advaita or Advaitin. But Ishvara is the material cause and Jagat is that is accepted by everybody. So in mithya, you cannot arrive at the final thing. That's called mithya. It's an appearance. So look at it this way, it looks like this, and that way. So it's all a standpoint. There cannot be any absolute such and such thing. So then comes the probability. In science also, this is probability. So probability is mass, probability is this, probability is wave, probability is particle, probability. Depends on how you look at it. So mithya makes itself available for different standpoints. There cannot be, you cannot say this is this alone and not. It's this from your standpoint. What Swami used to say, once he was taken to an exhibition, where an artist had presented his paintings. And artists were taking Swamiji around and, explaining. And he came to a very strange, painting. Swamiji couldn't understand, what is this? It's a table. Where is table? He said, if you lie underneath and then see the table, that's how this would look, It's all standpoint. Thus, when I say this is so, my standpoint, you understand that we are hanging on to standpoint and fighting about them. I have only a limited perspective of the world from my limited viewpoint, and then I judge that this is what it is, and then you say something, and then we fight. Mithya does not lend itself to any final prove yourself and disprove other person. That's called ego. That is Rajasic ego. Ego means Sattvic ego understands. Okay, I understand your standpoint. Okay, good. Rajasic says, I am right. Each one wants to prove themselves as right. But nobody is right in Mithya. Everybody has a standpoint. What happens in the home also, is I have a certain standpoint, you have a certain standpoint. Recognize this. How to deal with the ego. Recognize the standpoint. Don't hold on to it. Meaning conflict is not worth it. It's not worth holding on to my ego or my viewpoint and create conflict. Conflict is very painful, so then let it go. Anyway, that's by the way. So, can we term as Dvaitins or scientists if their capacity stops at finding out the obvious? It is the analysis of obvious, means analysis of what is visible. What does science tell us? What is obvious? Why do you call it obvious? What Vaisheshikas, Naiyayikas, all of them give us analysis of the universe that we are confronting. So does physics say that? All science says that. Is it not so? It is experience, but not obvious. That is why science has so many rules they tell. This is the law of so and so, law and so. That's how we can understand things. The science reveals to us variety of laws. Physics has one set of laws, chemistry another set of laws, biology, everything has its own laws. Some orders that are hidden in there, they are explained to us so we can understand things and we can, work with it. So Mimamsakas, all of them explain the laws in that sense. Bhagavad Gita explains the laws which bind this universe. Upanishad explains that also. Because we have to deal with the world, so we should understand, and therefore the laws are revealed to us. Don't call it obvious. If it's obvious, you don't need science at all. An apple falls, what is obvious about it? Somebody requires years and years of investigation to come up with the law of gravity. It didn't happen overnight. It's nothing obvious to us. Obvious is apple falling. That's obvious. Why did it fall? That's not obvious. The work that all these people are doing is not obvious. They work very hard to discover and tell us various laws are governing different phenomena. So we can understand those laws and then understand how to relate to things. Why the argument is given so much importance in Vedanta classes? That is to clear our own thinking. That we should understand also that there are different ways of looking at the same thing. That our own mind also looks at those things in a vyavahara. You don't think that these arguments are mimamsaka. We are mimamsaka, in vyavahara behave like that. You are not Vedantins. Otherwise there is no conflict at all. Vyavahara we become mimamsaka, naiyayikas, vaisheshikas. They are very great people, much lower than that we become. So these arguments are given to us because very often we also argue that way, or we also perceive that way, we also think that way. So not only explain the position of Mimamsakas or Naiyayikas, Vaisheshikas, it also explains our positions. And also to clear and clearly understand what Vedanta teaches, all this also is presented to us, that there are different standpoints and where the limitations are, where the problems are, so that we know and we can become free from those defects of thinking. Any question before I go to the next? Yeah.
Swamiji, in this, between mithya and satya, that's one thing, but staying within the rules of this world and the laws, there are different standpoints and viewpoints, but we're at a stage where even the facts are being doubted. It's like people come up with statements like alternate facts. So just
Say that again?
alternate facts.
Alternate facts? That's interesting. Okay.
So they come up with words like that to even refute the basic truths of, like if you take a topic like climate change or any of those things, even within the laws, it's not so much different standpoint or a viewpoint, it's just refuting even the basic laws of physics or chemistry. So it's almost a point of confusion, I think, and misinformation that exists. It's not the Vedanta topic, but I'm just saying it just seems like there's a lot of conflict and lack of action because people can't seem to come to a common understanding of what facts are within the transactional world, just seems that way. And, I don't know if there's a question, but I
understand what you're coming. I know where you're talking. It is politics.
Well, yeah.
And what is politics? I have a hidden agenda. And somehow I want to accomplish that agenda. I can accomplish it by showing that your agenda is wrong, or that thing is wrong. Is nothing truth here. It is all personal agenda. It is all greed. It is all, as I said, your constituency, your voter base, this and power. That's the basic agenda. Everywhere. Politicians are naturally there. Every human being, but politicians in particular. And so there is an agenda which is how they they contrive the narrative. So they also know this is wrong, but they have a certain agenda, and this is a way, this narrative will justify their agenda, or that they will fulfill their agenda. The environmental pollution is very obvious. How can you possibly justify that and say this is all hoax? But then only you can justify your constituency or Midwest or what it is and all these coal mines and this business, and you can justify them. All fossil fuel can justify, because that's a big industry. That's a big, it has a lot of economic impact, it has a lot of political impact, and so whether right or wrong, important is my power. And the so-called country's economy, so numbers. Not realizing what that so-called growth, what damage it is, at what cost we are getting. It is short-term gain, that's politics these days. And not worrying about long-term loss. They don't care. After 4 years, who cares? Right round the world. What matters is short-term gain, that's all. And the people are very, the smarter you are, more powerful you are, you will enforce your agenda. So there is nothing scientific about this.
So you explained very nicely about Rajasic, Tamasic and Sattvic ego. I understood it now. And many times we come to the ashram, we listen, hear you and other Swamijis, we understand it. We go back home. My Rajasic ego conflicts with my wife's Rajasic ego, But then, it doesn't dawn to me at that time what you said. That this Rajasic ego, I should not do that. Move to the Sattvic ego, and so that conflict can be avoided. But what comes to my mind is, one of the things you said earlier, Swamiji said, don't be a doormat. So with that, the conflicts aggravate. So why is that, or how can we use appropriate learnings that we get here so that we keep moving up in life or growing, living peacefully, than taking what we heard and apply it wrong places, wrong times, and then aggravate the conflict.
Our Puja Swami used to say that right now, listen, right now I'm angry, we'll talk later. So when you find the heat, is coming up, a good idea is to take a break. Not settle the argument, not settle the issue right away, because issue cannot be settled with a Rajasic mind. It can be only settled with Sattvic mind. So all right, let us give it a break. We'll talk about it later. If you can do that. Yeah, I have this point, you have this point. Oh, but then when our mind becomes calm, then we will talk about it. Because when the minds are excited or impulsive, that time everything appears distorted. Mind distorts everything. And so to one this appears right, other one that appears right, and that is called ego, which wants to always prove it to be right. Because this is my problem. I have to be right. Otherwise I can't survive. Why do you insist upon being right? The other person is right, okay. That would be so nice. But no. That's called ego. I have to be right. If you say that, all right, she also can be right. You are right. But say it in this, I don't, somebody, you are right. That is not the way to say also. People say that, but other people don't accept it. I know you don't mean what you say. All right, you are right. No, that means you are wrong anyway. My suggestion is that after all, you have to deal with the spouse every day, day in and day out. This applies to everybody. You are frank enough to, say it in public, but this is every human being's problem. And I'm sure that there are a few issues which come up again and again and again and again and again. Maybe 2, 3, 4 issues. So my suggestion is that you develop a strategy before beginning the day. Then look, during the day now with my spouse, this thing is likely to happen, that is likely to happen. So these few things can happen. Before that, what is my strategy? If that happens, what will I do? What is my strategy? Oh, I should be kind. Let the other person have their way. Then, see, when I am away, objective, then it's easy for me to be kind. Then I can create a distance. So when I think like this, and I visualize or rehearse those things that are happening now, I rehearse, then I can tell my mind, hey, have this strategy, do this. We do not remain objective when we get overcome by our emotions. But when we are by ourselves and reviewing those 2, 3 possible episodes that can happen, that is when I have the luxury or leisure to decide my strategy. That mind, do this. Either let it go, drop it, stop it, or don't hold on to your views because they are not going to count anyway. So, it will be possible to decide a strategy when the mind is objective, when you are not part of it. And so every day a few things keep on happening, every day. And nothing about any particular. This is what human life is. And therefore, let us ourselves arrive at a strategy that this can happen, this can happen, this can happen. Mind, how are you going to now act? Do this, be kind, be compassionate, be accommodative. Bring the value at that time. We can't bring the value when things are hot. We can bring the value when we are objective. Tell the mind, okay mind, be kind. Let it go. Our relation is more important than our ego. This is a basic thing we should remember. In our life, the relationship is more important than the person. Because all our happiness and security comes from relationship, not from this ego. Alright, Therefore, let us understand the relationship is the most valuable thing to me. Every relationship. Not to talk of spouse, of course, the most important, but other relations also very important. And therefore, it is only practical and pragmatic to sacrifice the idiotic things like my insistence, etc., for the sake of relationship. But this strategy we can have when we are calm and objective. So when things start heated up, I know what to let go. Therefore, review this, rehearse it, decide the strategy, educate them. The mind will forget. You'll go back to it, so forget. Next day again. Evening you take the stock. Oh, okay, mind, you should have done this. Next day again. Strategy, review. It will take about a month, perhaps, If you do this again, and then the mind will slowly change. And then remember, oh, I'm supposed to do this. So the habits that have become, rooted take long time to go, but this is the way to change ourselves. Deciding the priorities in life. The relationship is more important than the person. Means ego. It's not, they say in the war it doesn't matter who is right. In war, what matters is who is left. You follow? They remember that. Please explain Sakshi is Upadhi Chaitanya, Upahita Chaitanya, and Atma is Anupahita Chaitanya. See, we keep on assuming different roles. And identifying with what I am not is our habit from ignorance. So not only do I play the role, but then I identify with the role. Therefore, Vedanta teaches us Atma, Anatma, Viveka. Viveka, separation. Atma from Anatma, subject from object, Atma subject, Anatma object, including body, mind, sense complex. So therefore Atma is called sometimes Drik or Drashta to exclude Drishya. Right now there is a lumping together of Drik and Drishya, that body also is I, therefore body actually is Drishya. And I is Drashta. When I say I am the body, I am lumping them together. Therefore, they teach us the Viveka, Atma, Anatma Viveka. Idam shariram kaunteya kshetramite abhiriyate. Edadyo vetitam prahu kshetragya itadvidha. Lord Krishna begins 13th chapter saying that, hey Arjuna, this body means gross subtle causal bodies are kshetra, drishya, object, recognize this. And there is someone who knows them. That knower is called Atma. So first of all, Atma is called knower, subject, drashta. To exclude the drishya or to enable us to recognize that this is anatma, is drishya or anatma. Therefore we begin by calling Atma drashta. And this I know is all drishya, this also is drishya. Therefore, to give up identification with drishya, Atma is called drashta. But drashta also has two aspects. Drashta means what? Subject. Now when I am seeing you, I am drashta of you, I am seeing table, I am drashta of table, I am seeing this, so drashta also keeps on changing, isn't it? Drashta meaning the seer also keeps on changing depending on the object that is seen. So now come to drashta. In drashta also there are two aspects. A changing aspect and an unchanging aspect. Like the clay, right now is a pot. Breaks, becomes shards. Further breaks, becomes pebbles. Further breaks, becomes powder. So the forms keep on changing, but the essence, the clay remains the same. So in pot there are two aspects, a changing aspect called name and form, an unchanging aspect called clay. So also in us, call it subject, drashta, ego, changing aspect. Now I'm a speaker, then a hearer, then a eater, then walker, then talker. So I also keeps on assuming variety of roles, is it not so? So recognize what's the role part. So second step is to separate myself from the role. That drashta also is a role. When I identify with drishti, shrota, identify the organ of hearing, manta, organ of thinking. Thus, that ego also, and sakshi, the witness. All these are relative names of Atma. They are all roles, including witness. But Swamiji, why do you call Atma witness then? In order to exclude the witnessed, you follow? Why do you call him seer? To exclude seen. So first of all we exclude those things. Now we come to the Atma which I think is seer. Now let me see, is seer my true nature? Because in seer also changing aspect is there. If I let go, sakshi also is changing based on what is saksha, what is witnessed. So witness also is not a changeless entity, witness also changes depending on what is witnessed. So I let go the changing part. What remains is the self. So this is how role, upadhi, etc. So by identifying upadhi with different roles are there, so sakshi is a final role, which then I have to drop. Sakshi helps me drop other roles. Drashta helps me drop other things. Finally, drashta also, the changing part I let go. Drashta also is a notion caused by the drashti. See? Sakshi also is a notion because of the act of witnessing. So act of witnessing also is not there. What remains is you, changeless you. So therefore, sakshi, the upadhi, upahiti, swami, is a role. And role arising from identifying with the function of witnessing. So give up that function, what remains is you, if you call anupahit, upahit, technicality, qualified, unqualified. Sakshi is Atma, qualified by the act of witnessing, Atma is unqualified. Is that clear? You get lost in all these technical words, That's what happens to us, once we become Vedantins and all, nothing wrong with technical, they don't help us to understand. We don't get stuck with them. Always keep your understanding simple. Simpler the understanding is, clearer it is. Otherwise, talking all the, we think that we know everything, we understand everything. Hopefully we do, but sometimes, it can be quite confusing also. I rarely use these words, by the way, in my, in our classes, hardly there are these technical words. So sometimes I may not understand a question also because I don't know. Anyway, there's a long list here. Okay, wow. What is parichedavada, avacchinnavada? Parichedavada, avacchinnavada. Paricheda, avachinna, same things. It's not. It is pratibimbavada, avachedavada. Not parichedavada. It is pratibimbavada and avachedavada. The parichinna, avachinna, paricheda, avacheda. Same, basic roots are the same. But the pratyaya suffixes are different. Parichinna, what is circumscribed? Parichinna, circumscribing something. In fact, there are two examples given in Vedanta of pratibimba and avacheda. to explain this jivatma that I think I am. The question is, Atma is limitless. How does limitless Atma think I am limited? How do you explain that? How does limitless self think that I am limited? How? So two ways it is explained. Like there is sun in the sky or moon in the sky. There is more common example at night. And there may be many containers of water in which the moon gets reflected. So moon looks at the reflections. Oh, I'm so small. Oh, I'm many. And when water is shaking, I'm shaking. I'm restless. Who says this? Moon says this. Why? Thinking there is a reflection. So also I say I'm limited. Moon thinks that I'm many because reflections are many. I'm limited, shaking, restless. So this kind of notion that we have about ourselves can be very well explained by the example of pratibimba or reflection. This vada phada, it is just an example of reflection. Pratibimba, vada, you become a philosophy and there is no such philosophy. Pratibimba is just an example, illustration to explain things. The other way to explain is you can say that the space is circumscribed by the pot. Ghata avacchinnam akasham. The space circumscribed by the pot. Meaning, just as there the moon thought I am many and limited and shaking, space thinks that I am only this much. Imagine. So Atma, there is limitless, formless, thinks that I am this form. So therefore this is another example. There is no vada. This is just simple example of pratibimba and avacheda. You follow? Vada means looks like some philosophy or something, Simple examples. And there can be any number of them also. So don't get lost in these things. But that's why we need a teacher. You can't, self-study cannot take you too far. It gets you a lot of confusion. You hear this, Swami, I am hearing, you hear whoever you want, but then unless you have the maturity, you get all kinds of standpoints and there's a lot of confusion. Vedanta is not a self-study thing, otherwise where is the question of Guru, Shishya, Parampara? You have to learn this at the feet of the teacher. Unfortunately, this COVID created all this kind of technology, which is good, but at the same time, it also can be a trap. I listen to 3 Swamijis and this one says this, other one. Everybody says good things and right things in their own way. And not that they are saying different things, but saying different things in different ways. And then it's quite likely that I can get confused. And then I become trapped in these words and I think that I understand everything, this vada and that vada, etc. That means there is a problem. When these technical words become your parlance, then there is a problem. Because we don't do the vacheda, parichina of day-to-day language, do we? We don't. Not that you should not understand the concept, I don't mean that. But don't get lost in this kind of stuff. Is it clear and have I made it clear, or is it that somebody says I thought I understood when I heard and now I don't understand it? Here.
Swami, I have a question. So I am always about this, the good and bad.
No, we are talking about avacheda and this vada, let's clear that thing. We'll come to you.
Yeah.
About this, it's gone. Any question? After what I said, I don't think anybody will dare to ask a question anyway. But you can see my impatience at all these kind of things, Right, okay, go ahead.
Yeah, sorry for that. So, it means about this good and bad, right? You're talking about the the standards of the good and bad. Like, from the reading, I understand the standards or thing like in the good. In Treta Yuga is different than the meaning or standards in the Kali Yuga, right? So, like, for the new generations, like, how can I explain what is good and what is bad? Like, means sometimes it's confusing to say, okay, this is the good. And so I'm just like, if some new generation says, like, really, what is the definition of good? And how can I explain, okay, this is the good thing, this is the bad thing? As it is changing, so is there any way, like, I can explain to the generations, like, okay, what is really good, what is bad, to understand, make them understand. Thank you. Thank you.
What is good, I should do to others, I should not do unto others what I do not want them to do to me. You know the basic rule? I should not do unto others what I do not want them to do to me, and I should attempt to do to others what I want them to do to me. That's good. Good is treat others as you treat yourself. That's the best thing, to the extent that you can. That's the whole idea, basis of all values. Treating others as you would like to be treated. That's good. Treating others, contrary to that, is bad, if you want to use the word bad. So this is the rule. Following the rule is good, violating the rule is opposite of that. Would you mind expounding a sloka from Kalidasa Raghuvamsam? The sloka is, Swami Viditatmananda had explained the meaning once, but I am unable to recollect, hence troubling you. Okay. So what's the sloka? At least you should have seen, you could have, remember the sloka? Vagartha sampraktau vagartha pratipattaye jagadah pitaro vande. Well, he teaches this sloka, so he keeps on saying that. So what the great Kalidasa quotes in his invocation Mangalacharanam of Raghuvamsa is this verse. Vande, I salute Pitarau parents. Jagadah Pitarau Vande, I salute the parents of the creation. Who? Parvati Parameshwarau. Parvati and Parameshwara, who are the parents of the universe? Parameshwara stands for the efficient cause, Parvati material, if you want to tell in Vedantic language, but Shiva, Parvati, Parameshwara, Shiva Shakti are the creator parents of the creation. I salute them. What is the relation of Parvati and Parameshwara? Vagarthayo sampraktau vaga arthau iva. Vag means what? The speech or word. Artha means meaning. Sampraktau sanyuktau. They are joined or united just as the word and the meaning are. You see, the basic rule is told here that when a word is uttered, it automatically creates meaning in our mind. When I say mango, the meaning of mango comes along with the word. When I say good, whatever word I use, if you have the right samskaras, was taken for granted that you have the language and things like that, then when the right samskaras or preparation of mind is there, the word automatically creates a meaning. The meaning brings about word, or word brings about meaning. When I say pot, the object comes. When I show the object, the word pot comes, hopefully. When I say pot, then the object pot shine in your mind. When I show this object, the word pot will come in your mind, isn't it? Does it? So word pot and meaning pot, this all, they always go together. One cannot be without the other. Think about it. When I say pot, the meaning has to come in your mind. If you are awake and listening and so forth, taken for granted. Well, what is pot? I never heard of it. Then also a different thing. But assuming that you have the right kind of samskaras in the mind, then a word creates the meaning. Word and meaning are inseparable. You follow? The meaning would create word, word would create meaning. So they are, how are they related? Inseparably related. So how word and meaning are connected, united with each other, so also Parvati and Parameshwara also. Parvati, Ardhanarishwara. So Parvati is never away from Parameshwara. Parameshwara is not away from Parvati. One is there, the other is there. So word and meaning are also united like Parvati, Parameshwara. Why did Kalidas remember this? Vagarthau iva sampraktau Parvati, Parameshwara. Shows his brilliance, This is his, knowledge that the word and meaning are. He brings that. Oh, great Kalidas, why remembering this? Parvati, Vagartha Pratipatte. So that in my mind, when I am now going to write this work, Raghuvamsha, the word should bring about the meaning in my mind, or the meaning should bring about the right word in my mind. He is praying to Lord Shiva and Parvati. Please bless me. They should be used appropriately with the meaning that is meant to be conveyed. It's a very important and very responsible task when you write. Even when you write questions, by the way. But anyway, so this is a Vagartha Pratipatti. Pratipatti means knowledge. So that I know the meaning of the words, I pray to Lord Parvati and Shiva to bless me. That I know that the word is connected to the meaning is connected to the word, but that right meaning should occur to me when the word is used. Follow? This is what is meant there. Idam vritti, idam adam vritti, adam aham vritti. Idam vritti and aham vritti, in the above before the mind is all, no. Word and meaning is what is, no, idam vritti, adam vritti. What is meant here is word and meaning. So what Kalidasa means is that just as the word is never apart from meaning and vice versa, just as Parvati and Parameshwar are always united, the word and meaning are united. There is no idam, any vritti, any word. Aham also is a word. I also is a word. You also is a word. This everything is a word and has a corresponding meaning. So there is no question, idam vritti, aham vritti. It's a word and meaning. When a word is not understood to come into the memory, how does the above apply? Word is not understood to come into memory. Gagabogang. Our Swami used to give that example. Have you heard this? Gagabogang. When that word is uttered, I don't understand meaning. But does something happen to the mind? Gagabogang. There is meaning. Understand? I don't understand. Oh, I'm confused. That is the meaning. When a word, something has to happen to the mind, that's the meaning. So even if the right meaning does not occur to you, some meaning will occur. So what we wish is that right meaning should occur. That is the whole sadhana here. What we want is when word Brahman is occurred, then meaning should come. That will take a lifetime. What all of our sadhana is for this purpose, Shravanam, Mananam, is all for one purpose. That when the word Brahman is uttered, the meaning occurs, then the job is done. For that Shravanam explains what Brahman is, what is the whole, explaining that one word for years and years and years and whatever. But therefore, even if you are committed to say, if you don't understand, word will bring about some kind of a response. That's called meaning. Confusion. Don't understand. Don't remember. That's also meaning at that time. You follow? We from Philadelphia, Gita, which this is open, are nearly completing chapter 18. Swami P was instrumental in starting the Vichara, and Swaminathan Mama had been helping us all through verse 9 plus, all those 9+ years. Now that we will be completing chapter 18 in 1 month's time, many of us want to restart the Gita homestead again. What would you suggest we do so that our learning in this revision is richer? I think it's a good idea. There are many who have started going back. I think it's a good idea because when we do it first time, many things, are not clear, and so when you do it again, it's more clear. You can do 1,000,000 times. Every time it will be better, more clear, more relevant. And more we understand, more it comes to our life. That's the whole idea. Understanding Gita, the purpose is so that our own life, everything becomes clear, our true self becomes clear, and therefore nothing is to be lost by going around Gita once, twice, 1,000,000 times. Nothing, because every time it is different. Gita is the same, but I am different, hopefully, So that's what they say. Swami, when I read the Tattva again, it makes so much more sense, it will make sense. So I would certainly recommend, that you go through it again. What can we expect in studying Gita second? This one, that you'll understand it better. Out of 14 to 16 families that were at the start, 13 families are completing it. But the rigor that we saw in the initial days, chapter 1 to 5 is missing, and while chapter 13 onwards, the absenteeism seems to have increased. The subject seemed a bit vague. Probably we will be discovering Tat and Tvam, hence Asi is vague. Just joking. Is this normal with other Vichara folks too, or just us? You see, this all becomes, what happens is that we do attend the Gita Vichara group. But Gita Vichara does not receive the amount of priority that it should receive. It may be a socializing, it may just because I have many things to do in this one of those things, and therefore I attend that. Sometimes I am prepared, not prepared. The purpose of Gita Vichara group to benefit us is that each one of us should really go through it beforehand. Say 5 pages you're going to do. If that would be an excellent thing, if all the members, 12, 13, 5, 6, whoever they are, if they've gone through that, ideally spend 1 or 2 hours reading those pages, trying to understand. And mark questions if you're not clear. If there are 5 members, 10 members, 15 members, each one of them has studied, I'm imagining an ideal thing. And each one has something to say about it, and questions are there. Each one can summarize what they've understood and what questions are there, other people can answer. So each one can become the teacher of the other because they've all thought. The purpose of Gita Vichara is this is called Mananam, where the things become clearer to us, our doubts are answered, we gain further clarity. If this is taken seriously, if we understand the value of this, I guess it was clear in the beginning, and therefore there was a lot of enthusiasm. But then as we get busy with our life and this priority slowly reduces and then becomes a social thing and then becomes a duty and then we drop out. It is true also that this Gita home study, what it is there are so many technical discussions you can be lost. I would suggest that there should be somebody who is the leader of that group. He says, skip pages 5 to 15, skip it. I won't, skip the technical discussions. I should not say this openly, but I'm telling you. In the Gita home study, this is what Puja Swami has done. And he had a purpose. Swamiji conducted a 3-year residential course for the full-time students where he took the Bhashya and explained everything in detail. And that is what has been transcribed, edited, and this is what it is. Now, to be a full-time student is one thing, who goes to his room and studies and, discusses. And for us, so a meeting after 15 days, and then... So, even though Puja Swami's intention was very good, that people at home should get the benefit of the same thing that the students got here. That's a great idea. But then, it is a difficult idea. And therefore, anyway, whatever it is, I no business to make any comment on this, but this can be simplified. When there are so many technical discussions are there, like in the second chapter, the verse 14 goes to some 42 pages on. This 13th chapter goes pages on, and so many points of view come, Sankhyas come, this comes, that comes, and we get lost. Even we get lost. Let about you. Therefore, I do not know whether I have no authority to do that. Puja Swami didn't want anything to change. I have no business to say. But between you and me, if the discussion is too technical, you can skip it. First time. Come back to second time. When you have second round, we'll come to that. So people won't be lost and discouraged because you don't understand what's going on. And it goes on, this discussion may go on for 2, 3, 5, 10 sessions. And it may be discouraging. And so call back all those people who left, and you can skip some of the discussion so that you retain a certain wavelength. And then we'll discuss it when you come back again. Puja Swami used to say, I'll come back to it again. He also used to postpone something for a little later, where understanding is more clear. So what can I say? So this is what you can try to retain the interest. When you don't understand things, the interest doesn't remain. Initially, we didn't have any personality issues. Of late, they seem to come up on a couple of occasions. Maybe as the quote goes, familiarity breeds contempt. The love and respect for each other in the vichara seems to have reduced, and some distressed opinion seems to have hardened in its place. What do you suggest we do? So that's what Gita teaches actually. The purpose of studying Gita is this, anyway, again I will repeat, relationship is more important than being right. And then when I find that the temperature is heating up, I let go. At home, of course, even here also. And I do not know the reason why this should happen really. Because in fact I have found Gita Vichara groups, great support groups. I have seen in US, in many places, they retain the relationship after 40 years, 35, 40 years, 30 years. I have been meeting them. They are still equally fond of each other. And now they are scattered also, but then still they keep contact with each other. But Gita Vichara group is meant also to be a support group. That we support emotionally, socially also, and that is what has happened also. That when some need was there socially, otherwise also some crisis came, other people always came forward to help. So that is a side benefit of the Gita Vichara group. It creates a support group. And I do not know, this is a little new to me, that conflicts are created, etc., etc. Maybe you sit down and remind everybody that, look, what is important is harmony among us. That is one of the important reasons for Gita Vichara group, to create a support group, and not to prove myself right. In knowledge, this is called Vada. So, what is meant by a Vichara group is, there are 3 kinds of discussions. One is called Vada, other is called Jalpa, third is Vitanda. So in Jalpa, I want to prove myself right, Vitanda, I want to prove yourself wrong. So these are the discussions, 2 kinds also. In politics is all right. You require this. In Senate and this, then Parliament, you require this to prove that fellow wrong, or prove myself right. No, that's some agenda. So Jalpa and Vitanda are also accepted as valid way of discussion, but not for this. For this, those who want to learn, Vada is the way. That we want to arrive at the truth, not assert ourselves. When you start asserting our view, then these conflicts happen. We realize that the purpose of the Gita Vichara group is Vada, is a discussion to arrive at an understanding. If I have an understanding, I explain it to others, not insist upon that. Yes, certainly you give benefit to others of your understanding. But at the same time that I am right and you are wrong, now then it is not the spirit of Vada or the Gita Vichara group. So if that starts happening, it's likely that then your ego gets hurt and it has a different kind of an atmosphere. So please, remember that Gita Vichara group is a group for discussion to arrive at an understanding and not assert an understanding. Each one contributes what they know, which is the advantage of this. And others also learn. And if I should be honest and open that if what other person says seems to make more sense, I should be willing to, change my views. That is the purpose of this discussion. If it's going to remain the same, then what have I learned from that? I didn't gain anything. So we go to Vichara group, Gita Vichara group, if necessary, to change so that we learn. Because the whole process is shedding ignorance and notions and preconceived notions and conclusions. So please, remember this. Room for negativity comes when we insist upon our viewpoint. This is not for insisting on a viewpoint, it's for learning. And even if I think I am right, somebody is wrong, there is no need to prove somebody is wrong. It is not to prove myself right or prove others wrong. It's to learn. Somebody is wrong, let it go. Wait for a time when you can point out, if you can help the person, not assert yourself. People don't mind learning, they have problem with asserting. You are wrong, but that is where the wrong thing. Once you say that, it's all gone. I don't think you are right, I don't think you understand, then you have dismissed that person. Then person is gone, he's not available. The only thing available is I am right, that's all. And therefore, please avoid this kind of a thing. You don't have to prove yourself right or other person wrong. Even if you are right, other person is wrong, we can always let go. And wait for a better time to explain ourselves if there is a need. And therefore, maybe bring Swaminathan Mama again, who can help or guide. What are some reasons that lead to interpersonal issues and how to avoid them or manage them? See, my own insecurity requires me to believe that I am right. That I am right is a need arising from my inadequacy or lack and want. Otherwise, a wise person doesn't mind being wrong. What's the big deal? I'm wrong. Okay, so what? No, I'm right. That comes from my need of proving to myself that I'm right. I am the big basic problem to myself, to prove myself that I'm right. I can't be wrong. What's the big deal? Why can I not be wrong? I can be wrong. If I have that humility, that I can admit that I'm wrong, then there is a possible learning. Otherwise I can never learn. If I'm right, where is to learn? Nobody can teach me. So humility. And a spirit also of learning rather than asserting. How to lead life without being critical of someone? Especially when we think they are wrong or plain stupid or insincere. How to? Already have made up your mind. Already a judgment is wrong and stupid and insincere. Be sympathetic. How to live life? Be sympathetic and compassionate to people who are stupid or insincere because they are unhappy people. People who are wrong or plain insisting understand inside there is a pain. Otherwise, only my pain wants me to be right. My happiness doesn't want to be right. Happiness, oh, all right, you are right. Happy person has no problem. Unhappy person has problem. He needs to be right. Otherwise he will be unhappy. So understand that by this thing we are only supporting, nurturing, nourishing our own unhappiness. But it will not go away right now just because I say. But at least if somebody is plain stupid, insincere, wrong, be sympathetic in your own mind. Don't need to say, I sympathize. Don't say that. Nobody wants to be sympathized. But in your mind, be sympathetic. That's the way to not be critical and relate to us. We recommend us to approach an acharya, sailors who teach us Tattva-bodha while we are learning Bhagavad Gita and study both. Sure, we'll be happy to teach you Tattva-bodha on Zoom. Swami Viditatmananda is there, Brahmachari Suryanarayana is there. They are there to teach you. Other teachers also come, but they are resident people. So yes, approach Swami Viditatmananda if you want to learn a text. I assume, on his behalf, I assume he'll be ready, to teach you. Is it advisable to listen to talks by Ramakrishna Mission acharyas? If I say yes, it's not, then I'll be branded. This is a very difficult question. Should you listen to anybody other than you, Swamiji? What should I say? Whereas inside I want it that way. I can't make it, I can't make it open. There's my narrow-mindedness that you should only listen to me, not to anybody else. Whereas I think it is sensible to do that. But so it is not right for me to say you should not listen to this, that and so forth. That's a question which I cannot answer. But ideally you should, it's better to have one teacher. Why do you need to listen to so many? What's the problem? Oh, I listen to this one, is good, because it's teaching just now. Everybody has their own style. So I like this one here, that one there, that one there. Is some kind of this is some kind of a shopping or what? Spiritual shopping or what it is? To get clarity, you certainly listen to others, but even one good teacher will give you all the clarity really. And when you get the clarity, then if you listen to others and then others into confusion. I cannot say anything about any other acharya, they're all great people. But we may not be ready to be able to, assimilate or put in place everything that they say. Everybody has his own style. They're all good. Their own style, own priorities, own way of saying things. And therefore one may appear different from the other, they may contradict each other, I don't know. But you decide who you want to listen to. Then I'm not here to say what you should do and should not do. But I think there are enough things from Arsha Vidya Gurukulam that, in my opinion, you don't need to go anywhere else. Enough here. Take one, take Puja Swami, take X, Y, Z, even here also, and listen. So, but I never did listen to anybody, so I don't know, I never listened to anybody. So what can I tell you? Maybe I missed something, by not listening to others, possible. Now, I do read other books, etc., to get some points, not that I don't, but it's not my habit to take 6 commentaries and compare this, that and so forth. It's an intellectual exercise. This learning is a different thing, It is learning is to grow in our maturity. So no, you do listen to other acharyas if you find them helpful. If you don't get confused, you can certainly get good things from wherever available if you have time. But at the same time, it would be a good idea to choose one acharya and then stick to that, and then perhaps the learning may be, more effective. That's what I would think. Okay, we conclude here. Thank you, Swami, from all Gita, which I like to read that. Thank you very much. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om.